Hello, I'm Carol.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and we're the Grief Gurus.
Grief is part of your story, but it's not all of your story. And in today's video, we're going to talk about something that's really important. Your grief doesn't need fixing. And I know people think it does, don't they, Lisa?
Yeah, it's like an ailment that we're looking for, a balm for, a fix, a cure-all, something to heal us. It's
Yeah, yeah.
not out there.
And I think this is the truth. If you are grieving the loss of someone, you are going to be in pain. That is normal. That is the normal path for grief. We're going to be sad. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. And it is something that you have to experience, you have to move through, and you do not have to fix it. There is no fixing. If somebody you love has died, you're going to be sad, of course, right? And yet, I think the issue is other people feel you need fixing because they don't like to see you in such pain, do they?
It's almost like if we haven't gone through grief, we almost see it as like a transactional thing, like, a bruise that needs, that wasn't there, it's here now, and it's going to go away. My experience with loss is actually much different than that. It's more along the lines of, it's just part of me now.
Mm, yes.
So it's not something that we're going to be able to have answers for. We have to experience, how it affects us, which is really hard because so different for everyone. So there's no kind of universal way to heal after someone dies. And yet we know that it is complicated and it takes time and it takes us wanting to, as you often say, be an active participant in our own healing. And that takes a lot of courage. How do we get to that place where we can, really get curious about it, but not at the same time be trying to snuff it out?
Yeah, I think for me it's having an understanding of grief of what's normal and what isn't normal. So it's normal to have physical symptoms and we talk about these in other videos, but who knew that? Who knew aches and pains would come back? Who knew about the cognitive issues? Who knew that your incidence of heart attacks will go up in the first 24 hours? So there's lots about grief that makes it really complicated, and it is just not something that we can cut out like a tumor or mend like a bone, or as you say, with a bruise. We have to wait and we have to do something with this grief. And befriending the grief, as Alan Wolfelt says, is something that may sound a little strange to people, but I think you and I have come to this place to know that grief is always going to be part of us, but not all of us, as I say at the beginning. It's part of our story. It is showing that love that we had for the person that's gone, and we don't want to lose that, actually. Even though it does feel like you don't want it at the beginning, of course, because it's so painful, you just want it to be over. I can remember googling and saying, how long does it take to get over this? Of course we do that, but as you go through it, you understand, I think, that actually it is something that becomes a part of us. We don't need to fix it.
Yeah, and it's making me think of, in the corporate world and other places too, but this is where I would always hear this phrase of like, set expectations, manage expectations, but this is actually a really important point, and I think why this particular topic is so important for grievers to hear, because knowing that the end game isn't that we're going to be pain free, but knowing
Mm,
that the end game has more to do with finding ways to allow the grief to be with us, but not in a way that takes us over. Whether that's, having a weekly appointment with a therapist, or joining the community like the Grief Gurus, or making a regular meditation or reflection time for yourself, that these are all ways that we do integrate that grief. But having this as a goal to fix it is not, in my experience, particularly if the loss is profound, it's not reasonable. So we do want to manage these expectations, because
yeah.
it allows us to then move our focus and our attention from, feeling great, which is just not reasonable that we're going to always feel great. Even before we lost our loved one, we didn't feel great all the time.
Right,
So we're not going
right.
to fix this, but we're going to learn how to relate to it. We're going to learn that it can bring us, some lessons that maybe we didn't want, but they're still folded into our experience. And we can be open to that without, like, we don't have to be excited about it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the idea that we would fix it as in it needs repairing, it's more like, I guess the word that's coming to me is it's a new relationship that we
yeah.
have.
Great way of looking at it. And the thing is, you're not broken. And I know anybody who's in new grief is saying, I feel like I'm broken. I know we did too, but you're not actually broken. This is a state of being that you need to work through. And it's a bit like a sell by date, isn't it? We expect there on a carton of milk, there's a sell by date, but there isn't one in grief. There's no timeline in grief. There is no fix, do this, and it's completely gone. It
Right.
just
We
can't be
want
completely
that YouTube
gone.
video to, I realize we're making a video now, but yeah, I mean, it's like your go-to thing. You want to learn how to fix your lawnmower, you pull it up on YouTube. You want to
Yes.
learn how to make something, you pull it up. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just not the way that this
The
works.
story goes. And I think it really is about this learning to be with it and this understanding that it's going to be different for every single person depending on the relationship they had, on how their person died. Was it a long drawn out illness? Was it a sudden unexpected death? These things, with a death by suicide, these things will impact how you grieve. And so if somebody has died by suicide and your friends are like, well, it's a year now, aren't you better? Isn't it time that you were over this? Of course not. How could you possibly be? So the complexities of grief, it has so many layers depending on who you are and your life experiences. That means there is nothing to fix. There is no fixable thing. It's something that you have to learn to live through. And as I always say, integrate into your life. And as Lisa has said, befriend that grief, have a relationship with it. That changes everything, I think, when we can open our hearts and go, okay, it's here. How do I live with it? And I know
Yeah.
that's what people are going, yeah, tell us, how do I live with it? That's maybe another video, but it isn't a fixable thing. You're not broken. You're not broken. If somebody's
You're
pregnant,
not
you're not
broken.
broken. You're not
And we
broken.
don't expect, I was talking with someone recently who was approaching a social situation for the first time and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, I'm just going to go. I don't want to be sad. I'm just going to, it's going to be okay. And my response was, yeah, it's going to be okay. But if you had been in a car wreck, 6 or 8 weeks ago, you wouldn't be thinking you were going to show up to a cookout and play volleyball. You
Yeah.
would be mindful that you have some limitations, that those
Yes.
limitations are worth respecting
Yeah.
and being caring for yourself within that situation. So yeah, it is going to be okay, but don't hold yourself to this, I'm going to be who I was, because now
You're not.
you've got, the pain, and now you're going to let yourself down, because it's just not, you're not going to go out and play tennis if your arm was broken. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
we
It's
want to
saying
manage those expectations also.
I was going to say, yeah, expectations and capacity. You just don't have the capacity. You might be a social butterfly, love being with people, and yet you go to a party, and after half an hour, if you're a griever, you may go, I'm done. It's too overwhelming. And so bear in mind, you will be different, and allow that self care. That is what is going to be healing, not fixing. And I think there's a very different intention behind it. Healing is different to fixing. Healing is how you come through it with it, and fixing is just not needed in grief.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the word curiosity comes to mind, and that's a
Mm,
really brazen thing to say to people that are really hurting, because who wants to get curious about our
yeah.
source of pain?
Right.
But honestly, it is something that we learn to have a relationship with, and instead of, trying to plug it into some algorithm we can run to feel better, feeling better, we do need to find ways to give ourselves a break from the overwhelming nature of it, which is in the beginning very, all encompassing even,
Yeah.
but we don't want to fix it and get rid of it. We're curious. We want to get to know it, and we want to really pay attention to what we need during that process.
I agree.
So thanks for joining us today. We'd love to see you subscribe to our channel if this is resonating, and also just check us out at thegriefgurus.com, which is where we're having a lot of these conversations, more in-depth conversations about how we do heal and how we navigate forward. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.